Hana pressed her face against the transport window and watched the stars blur into lines of light. She had never been in space before. 3 weeks ago she was teaching kendo to children in Seoul. Now she was traveling to a combat school that orbited a neutron star, surrounded by aliens she had only seen in videos. The sword rested across her lap. It was wrapped in dark blue cloth, the same cloth her grandmother had used. The blade was 300 years old, passed down through her family. The steel was perfect. Her grandfather had told her that the swordsmith who made it had folded the metal 10,000 times. Hana did not know if that was true, but she knew the sword was special. "We're arriving soon," Taeyang said from the seat beside her. He was older than Hana, maybe 40 years old. He worked for Earth's diplomatic service. He had arranged everything for her to come here. "Remember, this is important. You're the first human in their combat program." "I know," Hana said quietly. She always spoke quietly. Her kendo master had taught her that a warrior's strength came from silence, not words. If you do well, they'll accept more humans. If you fail. Taeyang did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. Hana understood. Earth wanted to join the galactic community. To do that, humans had to prove they were strong enough. That job now belonged to her. The transport shuddered as it docked. Through the window, Hana could see the station. It was massive, bigger than any building on Earth. Lights covered its surface like a city in space. She picked up her sword and followed Taeyang through the airlock. The orientation hall was crowded with aliens. Hana had studied their species names, but seeing them in person was different. There were tall beings with scales that changed color. Short ones with too many arms. Some that floated without touching the ground. All of them wore combat training uniforms. All of them stared at her when she walked in. A group of cadets near the entrance started laughing. One of them pointed at her. Hana kept her face calm and found an empty seat near the back. She placed her wrapped sword carefully beside her. "Attention!" A deep voice boomed through the hall. Everyone went silent. A massive creature walked onto the stage. It had 4 arms and scales that looked like metal. Its eyes were bright yellow, and there were 4 of them. "I am Instructor Vexilor. For the next year I will decide if you are worthy to be called warriors." Vexilor walked along the front of the hall. His steps were heavy. Each species brings their own methods, their own weapons, their own traditions. Here you will learn if those traditions have value, or if they are just old stories. His 4 eyes scanned the room. "Show me your weapons." Around the hall, cadets activated their equipment. Hana saw energy shields appear around several students. Others held weapons that glowed with bright light. One cadet's hands sparked with electricity. The technology was incredible. Nothing on Earth looked like this. You, human. Vexilor's voice cut through the room. He was pointing at Hana. "Show your weapon." Hana stood up. She unwrapped the cloth from her sword slowly and carefully. The blade caught the light. It was beautiful, polished steel that reflected like a mirror. She held it properly, the way she had been taught since she was 6 years old. For a moment, the hall was completely quiet. Then someone laughed, then another. Soon dozens of cadets were laughing. Hana heard words in languages she did not understand, but she knew they were mocking her. "Is that metal?" Vexilor asked. He walked down from the stage toward her. "Primitive metal." "Yes, instructor," Hana said. "Steel." The instructor stopped in front of her. He was 3 times her size. With one of his 4 hands, he reached out and touched the blade. His claw ran along the edge carefully. "The balance is good," he said. Then he looked at her with all 4 eyes. "But this is a museum piece, not a weapon for modern combat. You understand this?" "I understand you think that," Hana said quietly. More laughter filled the hall. Vexilor tilted his large head. "You have courage. That is good. But courage does not stop plasma fire. Steel cannot block energy weapons." He returned to the stage. "Training begins tomorrow at dawn, dismissed." The cadets left the hall in groups, talking and laughing. Hana stayed in her seat, wrapping her sword again. Taeyang came to her side. His face looked worried. "That could have gone better," he said. It went as expected, Hana replied. She finished tying the cloth and stood up. They think humans are weak. I will show them they are wrong. How? You heard the instructor. Steel against plasma. I heard him, Hana said. She looked at Taeyang with calm eyes. My master once told me that a sword is only as strong as the person holding it. The blade is just metal. The warrior is what matters. That night, Hana found her quarters. The room was small but clean. Through the window, she could see Earth. In the distance, a blue and white sphere against the black of space. It looked so small from here, so far away. She unwrapped her sword and began her evening practice. The movements were old, passed down for centuries. Step forward, cut down, step back, guard up, spin, strike, return to center. Her body knew these movements perfectly. She had done them 10,000 times, maybe 100,000 times. But would they work here? Against aliens with energy weapons and shields? Against technology that seemed like magic? Hana finished her practice and sat down. She placed the sword across her knees and closed her eyes. She thought about her grandfather. He had given her this sword when she won the national championship. He had told her that their family had carried this blade through wars, through peace, through centuries of change. The blade never changed, he said, but the warriors who carried it always found new ways to use it. I will find a way, Hana whispered to the empty room. I promise. She did not sleep much that night. Instead, she watched videos of the training grounds. She studied how the alien cadets moved, how their weapons worked, how they fought. The plasma weapons fired bolts of superheated gas held together by magnetic fields. The energy shields created barriers of hardened light. Everything was energy and magnetism and physics she barely understood. But physics had rules. Everything had rules. Hana had spent her whole life learning the rules of combat, of balance, of timing. Maybe these new weapons had rules too. Maybe she could learn them. When dawn came, Hana was already awake. She dressed in her training uniform and wrapped her sword. The halls of the station were quiet. She found the training grounds by following the maps on the wall screens. Other cadets were already there, warming up. They stopped and stared when she walked in. Some pointed. Some laughed. One large alien with 6 legs walked up to her. It looked down at her with 3 eyes. You are the human, it said. Its voice sounded like rocks grinding together. The one with the antique. My name is Hana, she said. I am Thexamora. I will enjoy watching you fail. The alien turned and walked away, its heavy feet making the floor vibrate. Hana said nothing. She found a spot near the wall and began stretching. Her muscles were tight from the space travel. She needed to be loose and ready. Whatever test came today, she would face it with everything she had. Instructor Vexilor entered the training ground. Today you face the gauntlet, he announced. 200 meters, automated defenses, plasma bolts set to stun level. Reach the other end without being knocked unconscious. Use whatever methods your species prefers. Begin when ready. The first cadet stepped up, activated an energy shield, and ran into the arena. Plasma bolts fired from hidden turrets. The shield flickered with each hit, but held. The cadet made it across in 30 seconds. More cadets went. Some used shields. Some moved so fast they were hard to see. One turned invisible. They all had technology or natural abilities that seemed impossible. Then it was Hana's turn. She unwrapped her sword and stepped up to the starting line. The arena stretched before her, empty except for the pillars of metal scattered throughout. She could not see the turrets, but she knew they were there. This will be entertaining, Thexamora said loudly from the sidelines. Hana took a deep breath. She gripped her sword and thought about everything her masters had taught her. Watch, listen, move when the time is right. She started running. The first plasma bolt came fast. Hana saw the flash from the corner of her eye and dove to the right. The bolt passed where her head had been a second ago. She hit the ground and rolled, coming up behind a metal pillar. Her shoulder hurt from the impact, but she was still conscious. 2 more bolts fired in quick succession. They hit the pillar and Hana felt the heat through the metal. She counted in her head. Flash. 1 second. Flash. 1 second. Flash. The turrets had a rhythm. She ran to the next pillar during the gap between shots. Another bolt came and she was not quite fast enough. It grazed her left arm. Pain exploded through her muscles and the smell of burned fabric filled her nose. Her arm went numb, but her right hand still gripped the sword. She kept moving. Halfway across the arena, Hana's breathing was hard. Burns covered her training armor. 3 more hits and she would be unconscious. She could hear the other cadets laughing and making comments. She ignored them. Her master's voice echoed in her mind. Pain is just information. Accept it and continue. She studied the pattern more carefully now. The turrets were not random. They fired from specific positions. There were gaps in their coverage. Hana started moving differently, using the angles and spaces between the pillars. She stopped trying to move fast and started moving smart. A bolt came straight at her chest. This time Hana did not dodge. She raised her sword and angled it 45 degrees. The plasma bolt hit the blade. For a moment she felt incredible heat through the metal. Then the bolt slid off the angled surface and shot upward, dissipating against the arena's energy ceiling. The crowd went silent. Hana's hand stung from the impact, but she was still standing. She had not blocked the plasma. She had deflected it. There was a difference. Instructor Vexillor leaned forward in his observation position. All 4 of his eyes focused on the human. Hana kept moving. She deflected 2 more bolts using the same angled technique. The last 20 meters were the hardest. Her arms shook with exhaustion. Burns covered both legs, but she pushed forward step by step until she crossed the finish line. She collapsed to one knee, breathing hard. The sword's tip touched the ground as she used it to stay upright. Her vision blurred at the edges and her whole body hurt, but she had made it across. She was still conscious. Time 3 minutes 42 seconds, Vexillor announced. Completion status, success. He paused and his voice changed slightly. Injuries severe. Report to medical immediately. 2 medics came with a floating stretcher, but Hana waved them away. She stood up slowly, gripping her sword. She walked out of the arena on her own feet. The other cadets watched in silence now. Even Thexmora said nothing. In the medical center, a young human woman treated Hana's burns. Her name tag said Yuna. She was maybe 20 years old with gentle hands and a worried expression. This is really bad, Yuna said as she applied healing gel to Hana's arms. 2nd-degree burns on both arms and legs. You should rest for at least 3 days. Training is tomorrow, Hana said. You can't be serious. Yuna looked at her with wide eyes. Your body needs time to heal. If you push too hard. I will be there tomorrow, Hana said quietly. It was not a discussion. Yuna sighed but continued treating the burns. Why are you doing this? Why push yourself so hard? Hana looked at the ceiling. Because people are watching. Not just here. Back on Earth. If I fail, they will think all humans are weak. If I succeed, maybe more humans can come here. Can prove we belong. That's a lot of pressure for one person, Yuna said softly. Yes, Hana agreed. But someone has to carry it. That evening, instead of resting, Hana went to the station's research library. Her arms were wrapped in bandages and every movement hurt, but she needed answers. She found a terminal in a quiet corner and started searching for information about plasma weapons. The physics was complicated. Plasma was superheated gas, held together by magnetic fields. When it hit something solid, it released all its energy at once. That was why it burned so badly. But the magnetic containment field had structure. It had a shape. And if something hit that field at the right angle, at the right speed, maybe the bolt could be pushed off course instead of absorbed. Interesting reading, a voice said behind her. Hana turned to see Instructor Vexillor standing there. His massive form blocked half the library lights. Instructor, Hana said, starting to stand. Stay seated, Vexillor said. Your injuries are severe. You should not even be out of medical. He looked at the screen she had been reading. Studying plasma dynamics is smart. I need to understand how they work, Hana said, if I want to defend against them. With steel, Vexillor said. It was not quite a question. With technique, Hana corrected. The steel is just a tool. Vexillor was quiet for a moment. Then he pulled up a chair. The furniture looked tiny under his massive body. When I was young, my people were considered primitive by the galactic community. We used claws and teeth. We had no energy weapons. No shields. Other species laughed at us just like they laughed at you today. Hana listened carefully. But we learned, Vexilor continued. We adapted. We took what they dismissed as primitive and made it into something new. Now the Krell are respected throughout the galaxy. He looked at Hana with all four eyes. I see the same determination in you, the same refusal to give up, but determination alone is not enough. You understand this? Yes, Hana said. That is why I am here reading, learning. Good. Vexilor stood up. I still do not think steel can match plasma in direct combat, but I have been wrong before. He turned to leave, then paused. You deflected 3 bolts today. That was not luck. That was skill. Continue developing that skill. After the instructor left, Hana sat alone in the library for another hour. She read about magnetic fields, about energy dissipation, about the physics of deflection. The information was complex, but she was good at learning. She had spent 20 years learning the tiny details of sword technique. This was just another kind of technique. Over the next week, training continued. Each day brought new challenges. Hana failed more than she succeeded. She took more hits, got more burns, spent more time in medical. Yuna stopped trying to convince her to rest. Instead, she just patched Hana up and wished her luck. But Hana was learning. Every hit taught her something. Every successful deflection showed her what worked. She started seeing patterns in how plasma moved. She learned which angles worked best for deflection. She discovered that her sword's conductive steel actually helped redirect the magnetic fields if she timed it perfectly. The other cadets noticed. The laughing stopped. Some started watching her train with genuine curiosity. Even Thexmora seemed less hostile, though he still made insulting comments. One night, Taeyang visited her in her quarters. He looked tired. The council is watching your progress, he said. They are not impressed yet. Not impressed? Hana asked. I have completed every training exercise. Yes, but barely. You finish last in most trials. You take the most injuries. They say you are brave but not capable. Taeyang sat down heavily. Hana, I believe in you. But you need to do more than just survive. You need to excel. To show them something they have never seen before. Hana looked at her sword resting in its stand by the window. The blade caught the starlight. I am working on something, she said. But I need more time. More practice. You have 1 month until the midterm evaluation, Taeyang said. Single combat against an instructor. If you fail that, you will be dismissed from the program. And Earth's chances of joining the galactic community will be seriously damaged. After Taeyang left, Hana stood by the window for a long time. Earth was visible in the distance, a small blue dot. Somewhere down there, people were living normal lives. They had no idea that humanity's future might depend on what happened in this station, on what one woman with a sword could prove. She picked up her sword and went to the training grounds. It was late and the area was empty. Perfect. She needed to practice without an audience. Without judgment. Hana activated one of the training turrets on its lowest setting. She stood in the center of the room, sword ready. The first bolt came. She angled her blade and deflected it. Another bolt. Another deflection. She increased the difficulty. More bolts, faster, from different angles. She practiced for 3 hours. By the end, her arms were shaking and her clothes were soaked with sweat. But she had deflected 70% of the shots. Last week, she could only deflect 40%. She was improving. It was slow, but it was real. As she left the training grounds, she noticed someone in the shadows. Thexmora stepped into the light. His 3 eyes studied her carefully. You practice alone, he said. Every night. Yes, Hana said simply. Why? The results are still poor. You still finish last. Hana looked at him calmly. Last week I could deflect 4 out of 10 shots. Tonight I deflected 7 out of 10. Next week I will deflect 8. The week after 9. Eventually I will deflect them all. She walked past him. Finishing last does not matter if you keep improving. Thexmora watched her go. For the first time he did not have an insult ready. 3 weeks before the midterm evaluation, Hana found herself in the station's materials laboratory. She had requested special access, claiming she needed to understand the weapons better. The technician who let her in was human, a man named Hansol, who worked on maintaining the station's equipment. So you are the sword fighter, Hansel said, adjusting his glasses. He was thin and tall, with hands that moved constantly. Everyone is talking about you. What are they saying? Hannah asked. Hansel smiled awkwardly. Some say you are brave. Others say you are foolish. Most say you will fail the evaluation. He cleared his throat. I think you are trying to do something interesting. That is why I agreed to help. Hannah placed her sword on the lab table. I need to understand plasma weapons at a deeper level. The physics, how the magnetic containment works, the timing of the discharge cycle. You want to know how to beat them, Hansel said, walking to a computer terminal. Okay, let me show you something. He pulled up diagrams and equations on the screen. Plasma bolts from standard training weapons maintain their form through a rotating magnetic field. This field pulses at a specific frequency. If you hit the bolt at the exact moment when the field is transitioning, the containment becomes unstable. Hannah studied the diagrams carefully. How long does the transition last? About 3 milliseconds, but you cannot see it. The transition happens too fast for human eyes. But I can feel it, Hannah said quietly. She picked up her sword and held it out. Steel is conductive. When the plasma gets close, the magnetic field interacts with the metal. There is a vibration, very small. I have felt it during training. Hansel's eyes widened. You are using the sword like a sensor, feeling for the magnetic pulse. Not consciously. Not yet. But my body responds to it, like how a musician feels the rhythm of music. Hannah looked at her blade. I need to make it conscious. I need to train my body to recognize that exact moment. They worked together for hours. Hansel set up a testing range with sensors and cameras. Hannah practiced against slow-moving plasma bolts, trying to identify the moment of transition. At first, she succeeded only 1 time out of 20, then 1 out of 10. Slowly, her success rate climbed. This is incredible, Hansel said, reviewing the data. Your reaction time is improving. You are learning to predict the transition before it happens. It is like kata, Hannah explained. In sword training, we practice the same movements thousands of times. The body learns. The mind stops thinking and just reacts. I am teaching my body a new kata, one designed for plasma. But understanding the physics was only part of the challenge. Hannah also needed to adapt her traditional techniques. She spent long hours in the zero-gravity sections of the station, practicing sword forms in 3 dimensions. In space combat, enemies could attack from any direction. Up and down meant nothing. She modified ancient stances for zero gravity. She learned to use the station's walls and ceiling as additional surfaces. She practiced spinning techniques that would have been impossible on Earth but worked perfectly without gravity. Her 300-year-old sword techniques evolved into something new. One evening, Yuna found Hannah floating in a training room, moving through slow sword forms with her eyes closed. The medic watched from the doorway for several minutes before speaking. You look like you are dancing, Yuna said. Hannah opened her eyes and stopped moving. She grabbed a handhold and pulled herself to the wall. My master used to say that sword fighting and dancing are similar. Both require rhythm, balance, and grace. Your burns have healed well, Yuna observed. You are taking fewer hits during training. Yes, I am learning. Hannah pushed off the wall and floated to where Yuna stood. Thank you for taking care of me. I know I have been a difficult patient. Yuna smiled. You are not difficult, just dedicated, maybe too dedicated. She hesitated. Can I ask you something? Do you ever doubt? Do you ever think maybe this is impossible? Hannah was quiet for a moment. Every day, she admitted. Every day I doubt. Every day I think about giving up. But then I remember why I am here. Not just for me, for all the humans who will come after me. I have to prove it can be done. That is a heavy burden, Yuna said softly. Yes, but someone has to carry it. And I was chosen. Hannah looked at her sword, floating beside her in the zero gravity. My ancestors carried this blade through many battles. Now it is my turn. I will not dishonor them by quitting. The days blended together. Training, study, practice, sleep, repeat. Hana's body grew stronger. Her reflexes became faster. Her understanding of plasma weapons deepened. She stopped finishing last in the training exercises. She started finishing in the middle of the pack. Then, in the top half, the other cadets noticed the change. Some approached her with questions about her techniques. Others watched her train with respect in their eyes. Even Thex Mora stopped making insulting comments. He observed her practices silently, his 3 eyes tracking her movements with what might have been admiration. 1 week before the evaluation, Instructor Vexilor called Hana to his office. She entered the room and stood at attention. The instructor sat behind a desk that looked too small for his massive body. "Your progress has been noted," Vexilor said. "You have improved significantly. However, the midterm evaluation is different from regular training. You will face a real opponent, me, and I will not hold back." "I understand, Instructor," Hana said. "Do you?" Vexilor leaned forward. "I have been a warrior for 300 years. I have fought in real battles, killed real enemies. You have trained for a few weeks. The gap between us is enormous." "Yes, Instructor, the gap is enormous." Hana met his gaze calmly. "But gaps can be crossed." Vexilor was silent for a long moment. Then something that might have been a smile crossed his alien face. "You remind me of myself when I was young, confident, determined, probably foolish." He stood up. "Very well. Show me what you have learned, but understand this. I will use full-powered weapons. If you fail to defend yourself, you will be seriously injured, possibly killed. Do you accept these terms?" Hana bowed deeply. "I accept." That night, Hana could not sleep. She sat by her window looking at Earth. Her sword rested across her knees. She thought about her grandfather, about her kendo master, about all the warriors who had carried this blade before her. What would they think of what she was trying to do? Would they be proud, or think she was crazy? Taeyang visited her the next morning. He looked worried. "The evaluation is in 6 days. How do you feel?" "Ready?" Hana said. It was not entirely true, but it was the only answer she could give. "The Diplomatic Council has sent representatives to watch," Taeyang said. "Your performance will be recorded and sent to Earth. Millions of people will see this." He paused. "No pressure." Hana actually smiled at that. No pressure at all. The final week of preparation was intense. Hana trained harder than ever. She practiced with Hansel in the lab, refining her ability to sense the magnetic transitions. She worked with Yuna on breathing techniques to stay calm under pressure. She spent hours alone with her sword, perfecting every movement. On the night before the evaluation, Hana performed a ceremony her grandfather had taught her. She cleaned her sword with sacred oil. She meditated for 2 hours, clearing her mind of all doubts and fears. She wrote a letter to her family, just in case she did not survive. Then she slept deeply and dreamlessly. When dawn came, Hana woke with absolute clarity. Today was the day. Today she would prove what a human with a steel sword could do against the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. Today she would honor her ancestors and make her people proud, or today she would die trying. She dressed carefully in her training uniform. She wrapped her sword in its cloth, then unwrapped it again. She wanted to see the blade one more time before the battle. The steel was perfect, polished to a mirror shine. It reflected her face back at her. She looked calm, focused, ready. Hana picked up her sword and walked toward the arena of proving. Her footsteps echoed in the empty corridors. Soon those corridors would be filled with cadets coming to watch. But right now, it was just her, and the sword, and the path ahead. She thought about a saying her master had taught her. The sword is the soul, the body is just a vessel. When the soul is clear, the sword moves freely. Her soul was clear. Her sword would move freely. and today the galaxy would see what humanity could do. The arena of proving was packed. Cadets from every species filled the viewing galleries, hundreds of them all whispering and pointing. Hana could feel their eyes on her as she entered. Some looked curious. Some looked excited to see her fail. A few looked worried. In the diplomatic observation deck, Taeyang sat with representatives from a dozen worlds. Recording devices were everywhere. This fight would be broadcast across the galaxy. Hana tried not to think about that. The arena floor was a circle 50 meters across. The walls were reinforced metal. The ceiling was an energy field designed to contain plasma fire. There were no pillars, no cover, nowhere to hide. Just open space and two warriors. Instructor Vexilor waited in the center. He wore full combat armor, black and silver covering his scales. In his upper right hand he held a plasma blade that glowed blue-white. In his lower right hand a plasma pistol. His other two hands were empty, ready to strike or grab. Hana walked to face him. She wore only her training uniform, no armor, no protection, just cloth and determination. Her sword was unwrapped, the steel catching the arena lights. She took her stance, blade held high, feet positioned perfectly. The arena fell silent. Even the whispering stopped. Everyone waited. Human Hana. Vexilor's voice echoed through the space. You have trained hard. You have improved greatly. I respect your dedication. He paused. But you cannot block plasma with steel. This is physics, not courage. Hana said nothing. She simply adjusted her stance slightly, weight shifting to the balls of her feet. Her breathing was slow and steady. Her mind was empty of everything except the moment. Vexilor tilted his massive head. The lights reflected in his four yellow eyes. Then he made a sound that was almost like laughter, a deep, grinding rumble. You can't block plasma with steel. The human raised her sword. The instructor fired without warning. 3 plasma bolts in rapid succession, each one aimed to incapacitate. They came fast, blue-white streaks of superheated death. Hana moved. Her sword became a blur. The first bolt met her blade at a precise angle. She felt the magnetic field through the steel, felt the moment of transition, and struck exactly then. The plasma deflected upward, arcing toward the ceiling where it dispersed harmlessly against the energy barrier. The second bolt came from a different angle. Hana spun, her body following the ancient forms but adapted, modernized. Her blade intercepted the bolt mid-rotation. The plasma ricocheted left, missing her by centimeters, splashing against the arena wall. The third bolt was aimed at her legs. Hana dropped low, her blade sweeping down in a motion that was part block, part strike. The steel edge cut through the plasma's magnetic containment field. The bolt split apart, dispersing into harmless gas before it could reach her. Complete silence filled the arena. Hundreds of aliens stared in shock. Even Vexilor froze for a fraction of a second, his 4 eyes wide with genuine surprise. Then the instructor smiled, showing teeth that could tear through metal. Impressive, he said. But that was just the beginning. Vexilor attacked in earnest now. His plasma blade swung in wide arcs while his pistol fired continuously. He moved with incredible speed for something so large. His empty hands reached for her, trying to grab, to crush. This was not a test anymore. This was real combat. Hana retreated, deflecting bolts, dodging strikes. Her sword rang as it met the plasma blade, steel against energy, neither yielding. Sparks cascaded around them. The smell of ozone filled the air. She could feel the heat through her uniform, could feel her muscles screaming with effort. But she had trained for this. Every night for weeks, practicing until her body moved without thinking. Every hour in the lab with Hansel, learning the physics. Every moment of doubt and pain and exhaustion had prepared her for exactly this. Hana stopped retreating. She shifted her strategy, using the arena's space differently. She moved in close inside Vexilor's reach, where his long arms became a disadvantage. Her sword moved in tight, controlled patterns. She did not try to overpower him. Instead, she redirected his attacks, used his own momentum against him. It was Aikido philosophy applied to sword fighting. It was judo principles adapted for plasma weapons. It was 300 years of tradition meeting tomorrow's technology, and somehow, impossibly, it was working. Vexilor's plasma blade came down in a devastating overhead strike. Hana did not block it directly. Instead, she angled her sword 45 degrees and stepped aside. The plasma blade slid along her steel, deflecting off at a new angle, missing her completely. Before Vexilor could recover, Hana's sword tip touched his throat armor, stopping just millimeters from his scales. Strike one, Hana said quietly. The crowd erupted. Cheers and shouts in a dozen languages. Hana stepped back, resuming her guard position. Vexillor looked at her with all four eyes, and there was something new in his expression. Respect. The fight continued. For 8 minutes they battled. Vexillor increased his intensity, using techniques from 3 centuries of experience. He fired from multiple angles, feinted with his blade, tried to overwhelm her with pure speed and power. But Hana adapted to everything he threw at her. She read his patterns the way she had learned to read opponents in kendo tournaments. She used her smaller size as an advantage, slipping through gaps in his defense. She even learned to predict when he would fire his pistol by watching the slight tension in his lower arm. 3 plasma bolts hit her. The first burned her shoulder, searing through the uniform fabric. The second caught her thigh, making her leg buckle. The third grazed her ribs, and Hana tasted blood. The pain was intense, but she pushed it aside. Pain was just information. She could process it later. Vexillor pressed his advantage, seeing her injuries. He charged forward with his blade raised high. It was a powerful attack, one that would end the fight. Hana saw it coming and made a choice. Instead of defending, she attacked. She stepped into his charge inside his guard and performed a perfect upward cut. Her sword moved faster than thought, faster than reaction. The steel blade stopped exactly 1 millimeter from Vexillor's chest armor, right over where his heart would be. At the same moment, Vexillor's plasma blade stopped centimeters from her head. They had both struck. They had both stopped. They stood frozen for a heartbeat, then 2, then 3. Then Vexillor stepped back. He deactivated his weapons. Enough, he announced to the arena. The evaluation is complete. Hana lowered her sword. Her legs shook with exhaustion. Blood seeped from her burns. But she remained standing, her back straight, her expression calm. Vexillor turned to face the viewing galleries. His voice carried to every corner of the arena. I said that steel cannot block plasma. I was wrong. He looked at Hana. She does not block. She redirects. She adapts. She overcomes. The instructor approached Hana. With all 4 of his arms, he performed a gesture she had never seen before. His arms spread wide, palms open, in what she somehow knew was the highest form of Krell respect, given only to warriors who had proven themselves in true combat. You have passed the evaluation, Vexillor said. More than passed. You have shown us something we had forgotten. That technology alone does not make a warrior. That ancient traditions have value. That adaptation is more powerful than any weapon. The arena exploded with noise. Cadets cheered. Even species that had mocked Hana on her first day were applauding. Thexamora stood in his gallery, his 3 eyes fixed on her, and slowly brought his 6 legs together in his species' gesture of respect. Hana bowed deeply to Instructor Vexillor in the traditional Earth manner. When she straightened, her vision blurred. The exhaustion and pain finally caught up with her. She swayed and her sword tip touched the ground. Vexillor caught her before she could fall. His massive hand steadied her gently. Medical team, he called out. Now. Yuna was there in seconds, running across the arena floor with emergency equipment. She began treating Hana's burns immediately, her hands steady despite the tears in her eyes. You did it, Yuna whispered. You actually did it. Hana managed a small smile through the pain. We did it, all of us. Every human who believed it was possible. In the diplomatic observation deck, Taeyang sat back in his chair. His hands were shaking. The representatives from other worlds were talking excitedly, pointing at their recording devices. The human with the steel sword had just changed everything. Earth's place in the galactic community was no longer a question. It was a certainty. As the medical team prepared to move Hana to the infirmary, she looked up at Vexillor. Instructor, she said weakly, thank you for not holding back. Thank you for the honor of true combat. Vexillor's 4 eyes softened. You are welcome, warrior Hana. Rest now, heal, and when you return to training, I will teach you everything I know. If you can master plasma with steel, imagine what you could do with both. As they carried her out of the arena, Hana held her sword close to her chest. The blade was warm from the plasma impacts but undamaged, 300 years old and still perfect, still strong. Just like the tradition it represented, just like the people who carried it forward. The crowd continued to cheer as she disappeared through the medical bay doors. The sound echoed through the station. a celebration not just of one warrior's victory, but of humanity's arrival on the galactic stage. Hana woke up 2 days later in the medical center. Her body was wrapped in regenerative bandages and soft lights glowed around her bed. The pain was mostly gone, replaced by a dull ache. Yuna sat in a chair beside her, reading something on a datapad. "How long was I asleep?" Hana asked. Her voice was rough. Yuna looked up, startled, then smiled widely. 48 hours. The doctor said your body needed rest after the trauma. Your burns are healing well, though. You should be fully recovered in another 3 days. She poured water into a cup and handed it to Hana. You are famous now, by the way. Famous? The recording of your fight has been viewed by billions across the galaxy. Humans are being called the species that bridges tradition and innovation. Earth's diplomatic status has been upgraded. And you, Yuna laughed. You are being called the Blade Master, the woman who defeated plasma with steel. Hana drank the water slowly. Fame had never interested her. She had come here for one purpose, to prove humans belonged. If she had done that, then the rest did not matter. Where is my sword? She asked. Yuna pointed to a stand beside the window. The sword rested there, carefully positioned, the steel blade clean and perfect. Instructor Vexillor brought it himself. He said a warrior's weapon should never be far from them. Over the next week, visitors came to see Hana. Taiyang arrived with news that Earth had been invited to join the Galactic Defense Coalition. Your performance changed everything, he said, his eyes bright with excitement. They want to study human martial arts. They want to learn how we combine old and new. You opened a door, Hana, a door that will benefit billions of humans. Hansel visited with data from the arena's sensors. I analyzed every movement you made, he said, showing her charts and graphs. Your timing was perfect, down to the millisecond. The way you use the magnetic field transitions, it is revolutionary. Other species are already trying to adapt your techniques. Even Thexmora came. The large alien stood awkwardly at the door, his 6 legs shuffling. I misjudged you, he said simply. I thought humans were weak. I was wrong. I would be honored to train with you if you are willing to teach me. Hana bowed her head respectfully. I would be honored to train with you as well, Thexmora. We can learn from each other. On the 5th day, Instructor Vexillor came. He carried something wrapped in cloth, which he set gently on the table beside her bed. A gift, he said. From the Krell people to you? Hana unwrapped the cloth carefully. Inside was a training manual, written in both Krell and human languages. The title read, Advanced Plasma Combat Techniques. She looked up at the instructor with wide eyes. This is Krell knowledge, passed down for generations, Vexillor said. We share it with very few, but you have earned it. Study it, master it, and teach your people, he paused. You were right when you said tradition and innovation can work together. You have shown us all how. 3 weeks after the evaluation, Hana was fully healed and back in training. But everything had changed. The other cadets treated her with respect now. Many asked her to demonstrate her techniques. Some wanted to spar with her. The humans were no longer seen as weak primitives. They were seen as innovative warriors with unique perspectives. And then the new humans arrived, 5 of them, stepping off the transport together. Hana was there to meet them along with Taiyang and Yuna. Each of the newcomers carried a traditional weapon from Earth's diverse cultures. One carried a naginata, the long Japanese polearm. Another held a Scottish claymore, massive and intimidating. There was a curved talwar from India, an assegai spear from South Africa, and a pair of eskrima sticks from the Philippines. 5 humans, 5 weapons, 5 different martial traditions, but all of them shared the same quiet determination Hana recognized from her own mirror. Welcome, Hana said to them. I am Hana. The path ahead is difficult, but you can succeed. Humans belong here. I have proven that. Now it is your turn to prove it again in your own ways. The newcomer with the naginata bowed. I am G1. I practice Kyudo as well, the way of the bow. I want to prove that arrows can match energy rifles. She looked at Hana with fierce eyes. Thank you for opening the door. We will make sure it stays open. Over the following months, the station changed. Instructor Vexillor began studying human martial arts seriously. Other instructors did the same. New training programs were developed that combined traditional combat techniques with modern technology. The institute became a place of true exchange, where ancient wisdom met tomorrow's innovation. Hana continued her training, learning plasma weapons from Vexilor while teaching him sword techniques. She discovered that her instructor had been right. Combining steel and plasma made her even more effective. But she never abandoned her traditional blade. It remained her primary weapon, a reminder of where she came from and what she represented. One evening, 6 months after her famous battle, Hana stood in the observation deck. Earth hung in the distance, beautiful and blue. Hansel joined her there carrying 2 cups of tea. He handed her one and stood beside her in comfortable silence. "The Council is sending more humans next month," Hansel said. 20 of them. Martial artists, engineers, scientists, diplomats. Earth is becoming a real part of the galactic community. Hana sipped her tea. "That is good. Do you think we will be accepted?" Hansel asked. "Long term, I mean. Not just as curiosities, but as equals?" Hana was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then she spoke. "We already are accepted. We just had to show them what humanity really means, what makes us special." "And what is that?" Hansel asked. Hana smiled, a rare expression that made her look younger. "That we do not discard the old when we reach for the new. We carry our ancestors forward and make them proud by adapting without forgetting. That is what makes us human. That is what makes us worthy." She looked at her reflection in the window. Behind her reflection, she could see her sword, resting in its stand in her quarters. 300 years old and still perfect, still relevant, still deadly in the right hands. "The galaxy thought we were primitive," Hana continued. "They saw our weapons and thought we were stuck in the past. But they did not understand that tradition is not the opposite of progress. Tradition is the foundation for progress. You cannot build a strong future without respecting your past." Hansel nodded slowly. "So we showed them that humans are not just imitators. We are synthesizers. We take the old and the new and create something unique." "Exactly," Hana said. "Every species here has their strength. The Krell have their power. The Vrixians have their bioelectric abilities. The others have their technology. We have adaptability. We have the wisdom to learn from everyone, including our own ancestors. That is humanity's gift to the galaxy." Behind them, the training grounds were busy even this late at night. Hana could see G1 practicing with her bow, firing arrows at holographic targets. The arrows flew straight and true, each one finding its mark. Another human proving that Earth's warriors belonged here. In another section, Theximora was practicing sword forms, his large body moving through the positions Hana had taught him. He was clumsy still, but dedicated. Learning, growing, adapting. Just like everyone else. "What will you do next?" Hansel asked. "After you complete the program here?" Hana considered the question. "I will go where I am needed. Maybe I will teach. Maybe I will serve in the Defense Coalition. Maybe I will return to Earth and train the next generation." She turned to face Hansel. "But wherever I go, I will carry this sword. And I will remember what it taught me. That being human means honoring the past while creating the future." Hansel raised his teacup. "To humanity, then, and to the warrior who showed the galaxy what we are capable of." Hana raised her cup as well. "To all humans, the ones who came before, the ones who are here now, and the ones who will come after. We stand on the shoulders of giants. Now it is our turn to be giants for the next generation." They drank their tea and watched Earth together in comfortable silence. The station continued its orbit around the neutron star. Training continued. Life continued. But something fundamental had changed. Humanity had proven itself, not through superior technology, not through overwhelming force, but through the simple act of refusing to abandon their roots while reaching for the stars. Later that night, Hana returned to her quarters. She performed her evening practice, moving through the same sword forms she had learned as a child. The movements were old, ancient even, but they felt new every time she performed them. Each repetition taught her something different. When she finished, she cleaned her blade carefully the way her grandfather had taught her. She spoke to the sword quietly, as if it could hear her. "You have served my family well for 300 years. You have crossed the stars. You have faced plasma and energy and technologies our ancestors could never imagine. And you remained true." She placed the sword in its stand and bowed to it, showing respect. Then she went to the window one last time before sleep. Earth was still there, unchanged and eternal. Home. Somewhere on that blue planet, a child was probably beginning kendo lessons. Maybe they would hold a bamboo sword for the first time today. Maybe they would learn their first stance. Maybe someday they would stand where Hana stood now, looking back at Earth from the stars, carrying forward the traditions that made them human. The cycle would continue. Generation after generation,